Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hope and the Truth. I'm Lance Parv, and it's been a little while. With me today, Cathy McCarthy. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I sure hope so. Recently, we were at a graduation party and had an interesting discussion about life. You know, with me, every time I'm anywhere, I'm talking about the Lord. But I wanted Cathy to come on and actually share her story. She has a very interesting background. I'll let her tell you what she does for a living, and then we'll kind of go from there. So, Cathy, why don't you explain who you are, what you do for a living?
Wellness and nutritional consulting, but as a side fun thing, I'm an extreme athlete, so I skydive professionally. It's not how I make a living, but it's certainly a lot of fun. So I was participating in a world record back in November, nighttime world record. So a little extra sketchy. And on the climb to altitude, I felt compelled for no particular reason. You know, there are two planes, so one we're trailing, and everybody's very quiet because everybody's scared to death.
Yeah.
You know, a collection of 30 or so individuals from around the world, hand chosen to be able to do this, and for reasons unknown, I quietly made the sign of the cross. And I began with, please, God, keep me safe. And I thought, well, that's really selfish. I said, please keep everybody safe. That was terrible. And then I said an Our Father, something I've never ever done in over 2,100 jumps.
Wow.
Just like old times in Catholic school, you know, Our Father, the whole thing, signed out, old school. Just, I thought, okay, this is great. And we made the jump. The jump was not totally successful, but upon landing, maybe 20, 25 feet above the ground, I overflew some dirty air from a plane that was parked in the wrong spot. And the dirty air from that propeller running violently collapsed my canopy and immediately slammed me into the ground. I bounced off of my rear end and then onto my face. Didn't move for about half a minute, so the 50 or so people gathered around watched in horror. They thought I had died. People at a campsite half a mile, so away came running because the quote, we felt the boom when the body hit, and they came to see who died.
Yeah.
So long story short, I realized that the little pieces that kept me. I thought I was going to be in a helicopter going to the hospital with broken bones sticking out everywhere. That's the only way that ever works.
Yeah.
It's the only way that ever works. But my friends all, once I started moving a little bit and help, they came running and, do you need an ambulance? And my helmet was choking me a little bit, like, help me out. And I just took notice of what I expected to be compound fractures, and no. So they helped me up, helped me out of my gear. I didn't tell you this before, but I actually packed up and made another jump, not knowing that I had fractured my spine and had a broken tibia.
Oh,
because it's a world record.
Yeah.
Come on, don't be a sissy. But in retrospect, I remember that at about 1,000 feet, I had taken off the cheap plastic yellow nighttime glasses, why is the plane there? It shouldn't be there. Had I had those glasses on, I don't know, when I slammed off the button onto the face, would I have lost my vision? Hard to know. I wear a mouth guard. Other skydivers don't wear mouth guards. I still had all my teeth. And so, Monday morning, coming home from Florida, sitting in the wheelchair in the airport there, someone drops a magazine. And I've already figured out that someone was watching out for me, because there's no way that I should have been in the hospital with an erector set on every one of my limbs. And someone had accidentally dropped a magazine right in front of me. And I'm going to cry now. It said, I shouldn't be alive. And I recognized immediately that was a clear-cut, just making sure you know. I know. Thank you. And so I got home, and later that evening, driving around, stopped at a stoplight, and the car in front of me, as if I hadn't had enough signals.
Yeah, just in
Because
case.
I was just ear to ear grinning, like, how? Look at this. I'm hurting, but this is amazing. And as if there weren't already enough signals and confirmation, there was a bumper sticker that clarified it utterly, that said, he who asks in the name of the Lord shall be saved. And I burst out laughing, because obviously that's what it was, but that the Creator would be so kind to spell it out.
Yeah.
And make sure that there's a red light so I have an opportunity to
read
read it.
Well, that's way you can read it. God is precise. He's precise.
I had to call my husband right away and say, he's putting it in writing.
Yeah.
You know? But all the little pieces of the puzzle, the mouth guard, the particular type of weight belt that I wear that happens to conform to my spine, that prevented further damage. I did have a spinal compression fracture, but it I've known other people, 3 in the past year, who've had spinal compression fractures, all of whom ended up in the hospital for days, if not a week, surgery, just massive issues ongoing. And
what did how was the audiences, not that there was an audience, but the people, how was their reaction like? How are you alive?
No one could believe it, just because they've seen people hit the ground at that speed from that height, and it does not go well.
Yeah.
That I could get up, pack. Well, of course, there's a lot of adrenaline, which covered up a lot of the pain. I knew something was wrong with my knee, but my logic said it's probably an MCL, ACL tear, and I'm going to need to have surgery on that anyway. So tough it out.
Tough it out. We'll be all right.
I wrapped it up.
Okay.
And people were like, "You're jumping again?" One of the gals said, "In my next life, I want to be Cathy McCarthy." I just was probably stupid. After I made that next jump, I told the organizer that the pain is coming up and the adrenaline is sort of wearing off. But I could not wipe the ear-to-ear smile, pain or not, off my face for the next few weeks, because I knew unequivocally that something prevented me from having further injury, and it was in writing. I shouldn't be alive, and he who asks in the name of the Lord shall be saved. And I found myself subsequently telling other people, sort of quietly, you don't know who has what beliefs in the skydiving community, and so I did this thing I've never done before. I said the Our Father in the plane, and then I started to realize, holy smokes, I'm bearing witness right now.
That's testimony.
That's what that is. Holy smokes. And then happened to bump into you, and however that all came up, and realized that we were both on the same page was pretty cool. So.
Our Father's precise. Have you ever thought of motivational speaking?
Oh, I have done over many years, yes. Yeah, I enjoy it a lot.
Something to think about. I wanted to share this story because it's such a story of hope and faith. What would be a message? Because you see what the state of the world is right now. What is a message that you'd have for the younger generation, for kids that are they're being brought up in a very different way? They see a world that we're not familiar with because we were raised differently. But what can you tell them in regards to your faith and how you can share that hope with them in a place that's hopelessness?
I think as I've gotten older, the more I realize that it's not about me, the easier it is. When I was in a really dark place a number of times in my life, and it was, and then it was all about me and how all these terrible things are happening to me. And once I learned to realize that these are lessons, like I tell some of my clients, if you want to build muscle, you have to go to the gym and you have to lift heavy weights. And while you're lifting those heavy weights, it's tearing down the muscle fibers. It's causing damage. And from that, you build, right? So you have to lift those weights. And if you try to look at some of those hardships as blessings and recognize that those are steps you have to go through to get that spiritual muscle and to get that emotional health and strength.
Mm.
Then it's a lot easier not to feel sorry for yourself. You know, I had a few places in my life where I was ready to just be done with it, and I took some pretty serious action to make that happen. I didn't share this with you, but in one case, you know, I was 18 years old, horrible abusive relationship, and I was done. And this person had the wherewithal to figure out where I was, dragged me into the hospital, and you know, that was when I was 18. So a couple of years ago, thanks to social media, I located this person on Facebook. And you know, people would say, well, why would you write to someone who gave you your first broken bone, beat the crap out of you on a routine basis, called you the most horrible names? Well, I needed to do that for me. Because if I forgive the person who harmed me, then it's gone, right?
Absolutely.
So I contacted him and I said, you know, thank you so much. I didn't say, oh, you're a terrible person, you did these awful things to me for, you know, 2 years of my life. I said, thank you so much for finding me when my life would have been over, because I have had a marvelous life since then. I'm happily married. I've had many adventures and numerous things that I won't lay out for you, but I'm grateful. And by expressing that gratitude, it relieved. I think we need to do that in our lives. It takes all the pressure off. It gives you hope.
Yeah, I think there's a self-awareness and introspection that a lot of people don't do. We're too quick to point the blame at someone else and point our finger at someone else, and that when we forgive someone, it comes off of us. It's not so much whether someone else is going to say, well, I'm not accepting it. You can accept it or not. It's no longer a burden on you.
It's only temporary. You know, someone says something to you, and they call you names or whatever. You know, when you realize that the way a person treats you most of the time has nothing to do with who you are, that it is a direct reflection of their relationship with themselves. Gosh, how easy that is. I was counseling a young relative recently. She's got issues with her mother. And, you know, we could sit and bash the mother for all the mistakes she's made. And I said, you know what? What if you prayed for her? She needs your prayers. What if you prayed for her? Instead of taking it personally, how could she do this to me? Oh, this is terrible. Oh, woe is me. But it's not about you.
No.
She hates herself. Why don't you pray for her? That lightens your burden. And it brightens something in her direction. It sends some sunshine her way. Never occurred to her to do that. But I strongly recommend. And if you don't know what that means, you know, pray. Just send good thoughts. You know, I hope that person has a better day.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good start. I think too often people are used to doing things a different way, and we have to change stuff. I mean, it's
our ego makes us want to take it on. You're like, oh, that belongs to me. It's you know, another friend I've counseled recently. I said, it's this basket you have, and she's been taking a lot of abuse from someone. I said, you pick up all these big turds in your way, for lack of a better word, and you're putting these turds in the basket. Like, oh, this is so stinky and it's so heavy. I said, just put the basket down. Yeah. Stop picking up the turds. They don't belong to you. Put the basket down.
I'm going to use that analogy. I'm going to use that.
Great.
She's using one of mine. I'm going to use one of hers.
It's ego that makes us want to hold on to that and own that pain. And if you just let it go, you know, someone cuts you off. Well, not young people. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and someone will, you know, give them the hand signal. You know, why would you do that? Somebody cuts me off in traffic. I go, God bless you. You must be having a terrible day. Yeah. I wish you the best.
You start realizing that people are struggling with something. It's not a personal attack against us. We take everything personally, like you said, it's an egocentric way of thinking, but it's not about us. You start to see when Jesus said, "Take the beam out of your eye before you point out the mote in your brother's," because as long as we're going around pointing out what's wrong with someone else, we'll never fix what's wrong with us. And
well, it's a way of deflecting, though, isn't it?
Sure is. It sure is. And so when our house becomes clean, then we can help someone out of love. And that's truly when you want to help someone, not to be right, not to prove them wrong. It's out of love because you see that they're struggling with something. And I think that would change most people's perceptions of what they're dealing with, and they wouldn't walk around miserable. Because you see that misery, it's growing. It's growing.
Yeah.
Crazy. Thank you so much for stopping. Amazing story. How can people get a hold, if you want people getting a hold of you for training, nutrition counseling, any of that stuff?
Oh, I have actually as a minister, I have a website, not website, I have a Facebook page, Vows of Promise.
Vows of Promise. Okay.
That's my ministry.
Okay. You can promote it. We'll put it on there for you.
Cool.
If you'd like to get a hold of Cathy, please, Vows of Promise. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
As always, guys, thanks for tuning in. Remember, give your life to Jesus Christ. We'll see you next time on Hope and the Truth. God bless.
Go.